Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Font versus Aldo. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the bantamweight division, Smolka versus Vince Morales. And I'll see this one up. And like straight to the point, I think Smolka is the better fighter overall. It is a very questionable fight. It's based off Smolka's inconsistency and the fact that it's kind of hard to gauge just how good Vince Morales is. We know he's not great. We know he's not really good like that. But is he good enough to beat Smolka or eke out a decision or something over Smolka? I think he might be that. That's a questionable factor because, like I said, Smolka's a very solid fighter, but he has been inconsistent a lot in his career. And who knows? Morales has a wrestling background, so that could come into effect. But I'm not going to lean to, what ifs. Until Morales shows me something, I can't lean to nothing on him. I just don't think that Smolka has more tools and will use more tools. I feel like Smolka has some wrestling. He's not the greatest wrestler. Definitely has some weaknesses in his wrestling and in his physical strength. But I think Smolka is the more technical striker. I think he's a more technical grappler, the more experienced fighter. And I think that should be enough for him to get a win. I don't think it'll be the prettiest fight, but I think that experience in the fact that he's going to use his more well-rounded skills and look to do more instead of just look to strike. The fact that he's going to be active and not just be out there throwing limited strikes like a lot of the people that Morales has beat. I feel like that's all going to factor into leading to Smolka getting his hand raised in a decision. So in this one, I have Smolka via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the lightweight division, Claudio Puelles versus Chris Grudesmacher. So in the lightweight division, Puelles versus Grudesmacher. How I see this one is, yes, Puelles is bigger, younger, supposedly trains at a better camp or whatnot, but I'm not all that impressed with who he trains with or necessarily his skills. Like, he might have enough to get past Grudesmacher, might have enough to destroy Grudesmacher potentially, but it's not like he has had the greatest performance. His last fight was a decision. He fought against another one-dimensional fighter, or at least a fighter that, well, the other fighter definitely kind of falls in the one-dimensional category. Puelles, we haven't really seen him striking too much. In that fight, we didn't see him striking too much. We saw his grappling. There was no great finishing ability. It was just really a boring, lackluster, not really showing much grappling matchup. I guess I could say he showed the improvements in his strength and conditioning. But yeah, and also could say Grudesmacher fight, his last fight, he got taken down a lot. But we saw Rafael Garcia's wrestling is very underrated in his last fight against Nathan Levy. So there's a lot of questionable factors in one. But typically you will lean to the youth in this one, like with Claudio Puelles. But for the fact that I haven't seen him shown to be a well-rounded fighter, I necessarily hasn't fought no way that decent. I feel like Grudesmacher's gonna pull off an upset in this one. I feel like, and also I didn't like the fact that in his fight prior to this, well, not his fight prior to this, but two fights prior to, two fights prior to this one, or his last one, I like how he reacted to taking shots to the body or reacted to damage. Looked very much like a snowflake when he get tagged up, curled up on the ground, crying and stuff. And then got a Hail Mary with like a leg lock or something to submission. So I really like the way he reacts to damage. And I know Chris Grudesmacher's not going to make it pretty for him. And Grudesmacher might not be no stud or anything, but this guy's been very underrated. And he's definitely been primed for upsets in the past, like against Joe Lozon, against Rafael Garcia, and some other fights. So the guy's definitely primed, and I think he definitely will look to, dig into that body and take something out of Claudio Puelles. And I feel like he can take it out of him, and I think he can beat him. I think he can stop him. I think he'll stop him late, like in the third round. I think it's a competitive fight. Puelles getting take down, trying to control him, trying to latch onto him, trying to work for submissions. Whereas Grudesmacher is able to get back to his feet, stay calm, stay composed, final shots to the body, keep walking him down, keep pressuring him, and not allow him to breathe. And eventually be able to cause him to wilt with his pressure and his shots to the body, his attack to the body and pressure. And I think he puts him away in the third round. So in this fight, I have Chris Grudesmacher via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Alonzo Minifield versus William Knight. And how I see the one right here between Minifield versus William Knight is, I just don't really feel like William Knight's improving. Like, I feel like he's the same fighter almost every time out. Like, tries to use a lot of muscle in every single thing he does. Yes, he got some grappling technique, but a lot of it, his success comes from his strength and being stronger. On the feet, he's still very much awkward and stiff and clunky with his striking, but he's powerful and explosive. So, like, I feel like I'm seeing more growth in Alonzo Minifield. See, in his fight against Fabio Churan, I saw the grappling come in look a lot better. In his last fight, was able to fight to a decision against a veteran and stay calm, stay composed, and then it's just need to, run his opponent over real quick. Was able to stay calm, composed, put on a high pace through 3 rounds. Yes, it's not as impressive. I mean, it don't look as impressive in the highlights to not get a finish over an old guy like that. But the fact that you can go in there with a veteran, extend them those long rounds, and still stay fresh, stay sharp through those 3 rounds, I feel like that's a better testament to his skills. Because anybody go out there and get a quick knockout, don't say much about your skills. I mean, they're impressive and they're nice and all that. And yes, it's a win's a win and all that stuff, but it's much better to fight a clean performance throughout, and it's much more replicatable and much more, intel to draw from that over the course of the fight instead of like a 9-second knockout. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I feel like William Knight, I feel like Alonzo Minifield can match him in strength, surpass him in athleticism. On the feet, I feel like he's a more technical striker. I feel like William Knight's still very clunky and awkward on the feet and not really technical at all. Grappling, probably a little, when I really saw this fight, I was leaning to William Knight's grappling a little bit, but now I feel like Alonzo Minifield is just, he's actually making leaps and he's making growth in his technique, whereas I feel like William Knight's stagnant. And I feel like Alonzo Minifield has pretty solid takedown defense, and he's hard to take down and harder to even harder to hold down. So I feel like William Knight is going to tire himself trying to go for those takedowns. Maybe he'll get a takedown, but I feel like Alonzo Minifield will be able to get back up. But I feel like most part, I feel like he would be a stuff to take down William Knight, just make him frustrate him when he's not able to, muscle him like he would have loved to do to his opponents, and it's stay in his face, tag him up. I don't think he stops him, but I do think he beats him to this. I think it's a fight where, William Knight's definitely trying to clinch up a lot, trying to make it a muscle battle. So it's not a case where William Knight is just, not William Knight, but Alonzo Minifield is just, unloading on him constantly in this fight. It's one of those fights where there's going to be a lot of grappling, a lot of clinching. But most of this fight, I feel like William Knight's not going to be comfortable out there. He's going to try to force a lot of grappling situations. And I feel like ultimately Alonzo Minifield's going to be able to get the better of them. Stay calm, stay composed, use the better technique, match him in strength, and make the better decisions out there. Land the flusher shots, cleaner shots, and be more consistent with it than William Knight. So in this one, I have Alonzo Minifield via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the women's strawweight division, Mallory Martin versus Cheyenne Vilsmas. How this one right here between Mallory Martin versus Cheyenne Vilsmas is, I'm just not all that high on Mallory Martin. I feel like Cheyenne Vilsmas beats her in every area. I think the biggest factor is the fact that Cheyenne still recently coming off COVID, got this and got that. She got a bunch of different factors. Recently got a divorce or whatnot. So a lot going on with her. But all that being said, I feel like she's still better in every area. I can see if it's more of a tight matchup. I don't feel like this matchup is all that tight to me. I just feel like Cheyenne Vilsmas is just literally better in every area. Like, Mallory Martin is the same woman who's getting picked apart by Hannah Cyphers and had to get a Hail Mary submission in the second round. Like, she was getting dropped, picked apart by Hannah Cyphers of all people. No insult to Hannah Cyphers, but it is what it is. She just not that gal. But either way, not the most impressive performance. It hasn't been the most active fighter. Hasn't been the most successful fighter. Yes, Cheyenne Vilsmas is only 1-1 herself, but I just feel like Cheyenne Vilsmas is a much better talent. And even with COVID and all the other factors, I just feel like this is her fight all day. And I think she just beats her to decisions, beats her in every area, controls this fight from start to finish, and beats her to a decision. So in this one, I got Cheyenne Vilsmas via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the welterweight division, Jake Matthews versus Jeremiah Wells. So Jake Matthews versus Jeremiah Wells, how I see this one is, I feel like this is very much a good fight for, Jeremiah Wells to, have an opportunity of winning. This is definitely not to the level where you're going to start to see him run into a wall necessarily. I'm predicting him to lose, but this is definitely not the case where this is a clear wall that he's not going to get over, or a clear hurdle that he's not going to be able to overcome. Because Jake Matthews is not the greatest striker, not the greatest grappler, tough kid, solid, but he definitely, nothing spectacular about him, to be honest. And definitely a wacky striker like, or at least a grappler with wacky striking like Jeremiah Wells could potentially, be able to just land clean shots on him, even with sloppy technique like he has. Maybe score a couple takedowns, muscle him around, land some big shots, maybe potentially knock him out, or just simply outwork him in the earlier rounds, or hurt him in the earlier rounds, and then kind of just survive that third round, kind of, just drain the clock out in that third round or something, and win off the first two rounds. So it's definitely a clear path to victory for Jeremiah Wells. Because like I said, Jake Matthews ain't all that solid, is all I'm saying. He's not all that solid. It's definitely a clear avenue for Jeremiah Wells to win, whether it be by knockout or be by high activity early, or maybe just bursts throughout that will win him rounds throughout. But it's very much a wide open fight for him. But I'm gonna lean to Jake Matthews. He's like nearly 10 years younger. I'm seeing improvements in his striking. He's never had a questionable chin, so I feel like he can wear the shots a little bit better. It's going to be a hard thing to kind of finish Jake Matthews, I think. whether it be by submission or well, at least from Jeremiah Wells, if it was like a guy that had like a real solid grappling, like a real solid wrestler or BJJ practitioner, that it would be on the table. I'm not saying Jake Matthews was such a slippery guy on the ground, but Jeremiah Wells definitely on the level where I would see him submitting Jake Matthews or really putting him away on the ground. But yeah, so I don't really see Jeremiah Wells having the best chance of putting him away. Jake Matthews is a very sturdy fighter, sturdy young fighter. So I feel like Jake Matthews is showing improvement. He's the bigger, longer, younger guy. I feel like he'll use that reach, use that experience, use the fact that he is young and durable, and be able to take Jeremiah Wells late, get a feel for him. Like I said, maybe weather that first round, and then in this fight go on, start to just wear him down, maybe score a takedown or two, latch onto him, just like lean on him, lay on him, latch onto him, tire him out, and then just grind out a decision over fading Wells, and like come on strong as he fades, basically. So in this fight, I have Jake Matthews via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the welterweight division, Bryan Barberena versus Darren Weeks. And that's this fight right here between Barberena versus Weeks. I think Weeks is a solid fighter and all, but he just has not been tested at this level. I feel like this is a huge jump up in competition for Darren Weeks. I would wish that they put him on a contender series a couple more times. Maybe like, matter of fact, I don't think he had a contender series fight. He was supposed to be on a contender series, but I think, matter of fact, he fell out, not his opponent. Like, at first, I think his original opponent fell out, and then he fell out. Yeah, so he didn't fight on contender series to my knowledge or to my recollection. So I feel like he's a fighter that still should very much be, having his first fight before he gets to the UFC in the contender series. I feel like he should very much be doing that. I think this is too soon for him, but it is what it is. He's in here now, but all I'm going to say, I feel like it's still too soon for him. I feel like Bryan Barberena's skills and experience will play a huge factor in this one. And I simply don't think Darren Weeks is up to the test yet. I feel like he'll put a good showing for himself, but I feel like Bryan Barberena will be able to put a pace on him, be able to outwork him, and be able to just be more savvy out there and beat him to the sin. Like, really, I just feel like it's going to be a case where, like I said, he's going to just have that veteran experience. He already got the rub, been around the UFC a good bit of the time, and been there with literally the best guys in the division, been there with Kobe Covington, Leon Edwards, Vicente Luque, et cetera, et cetera. So, be able to use that experience and get a decision over Darren Weeks. Good showing for Darren Weeks, but a clear that it's just like a learning experience for him. So in this fight, I got Bryan Barberena via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the flyweight division, Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Manuel Cape. And how's this fight right here between Zhalgas and Manuel Cape, or Manuel Cape? I think this really comes down to technique in a way. I feel like this fight's very much a toss-up because of how durable and how experienced Zhalgas Zhumagulov is, and he's pretty accomplished as well. Has some solid wins over some solid guys as well outside the UFC. And, former UFC standouts as well. So but outside the UFC. But either way, the guy is a very dangerous guy. Like, based off his durability and his experience, and he's pretty well-rounded. And Manuel Cape's lack of activity. So this could very much be a case where Manuel Cape will look like the better fighter when he is being active, but maybe looking for these big shots too much, or looking too much for shots and not just throwing them. And then it'd be a case where Zhalgas simply just does a little bit more or does a lot more and ekes out a decision. But I'm going to lean to Manuel Cape in this one to be the cleaner striker throughout, cleaner fighter throughout. And I don't think it's going to be hard to find Zhalgas Zhumagulov. I don't feel like Zhalgas Zhumagulov is such an amazing fighter necessarily. I feel like he's a fighter that's, solid in a lot of areas, and he's durable, and he'll go out there and he'll fight. So it's not a case of where you can't really put him out. You can't just outwork him so easily. Like, the guy's going to be there. He's going to give you a tough out. So it's like he's not easy to wrestle, not easy to strike, not easy to deal with in any facet of MMA. So he's not a guy you can necessarily walk over, but I feel like Manuel Cape will be able to land the flusher shots. I don't feel like it'll be too hard to land on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And I think he'll be able to, do just enough to win the decision. Probably landing the cleaner, flusher shots and the heavier shots, and the shots that, are received more by the judges, like the more dynamic strikes, and the shots that, land cleaner and flusher and the better combinations. Whereas Zhalgas, probably for the most part, might score a couple takedowns here or there, maybe a couple takedowns, but not doing a lot with them. Might land a couple power shots, but not the flushes. Whereas Manuel Cape's shots will be much sharper and much more impactful. but I don't think either of these guys get stopped in this fight and goes to decision, and I had Manuel Cape winning this one. So in this fight, I had Manuel Cape via decision. Now to our next fight. We have in the middleweight division, Mikey Patolo versus Dusko Todorovic. And how I see this fight right here between Mikey Patolo versus Dusko Todorovic is, I didn't think Mikey Patolo is one of those, like, you know, those young kids or one of those guys that seem like they got a pretty good skill set, a pretty good base, you know, they represent a pretty good package. Like, they got good striking, seem like pretty decent wrestling, but those guys that just can't get a win like this, you're like, oh, this guy gonna do something in the UFC. He'll be able to stick around. He like he up a par. He like a pretty solid prospect. But then they come to the UFC and they just missing the winning factor. Like, what is it? Is it a mental thing? Is it a lack of activity? Is it a lack of ring awareness, cage awareness? Or is it just a case of bad luck, bad matchmaking? But he definitely seems like he's falls in that category. He was like, what, 14-8? Struggled to win. Lost some weight. He lost to like Callum Potter. That's a very questionable loss. Not for the fact that he got robbed or anything in the fight, but the fact that he lost Callum Potter at all. You would think that his talent level would be enough that he would run through a guy like Callum Potter, but it's not meant to be. Then you can see he had like little bits of success in some of these fights, and then ultimately he just can't follow through. Like even the last fight, I had a very good success, but got tapped out with like in the last round when he was up. So like, what's up with the guy? I think can't really trust a guy like that. 14-8, and lacking that winning ability or that winning mentality. So like that's a big factor, man. I feel like Dusko Todorovic, he had like 2 disappointing losses, but I feel like he fought much better competition as far as people he fought. Like Punahele Soriano is one of the better prospects in this division at this moment, and then you got Gregory Rodriguez, who had that little hiccup in the Contender Series, but now he's looking like a pretty big threat in the division. I'm not saying he's gonna make no big waves, but he definitely could pile some wins together and maybe challenge from some of those guys that are on the rise. So no real shame in the losses he did have. Maybe in his technique and how he went about it, but otherwise I feel like Dusko Todorovic is the more well-rounded fighter. And I feel like he'll make those adjustments and be able to stay polished more throughout the fight. And then, be able to take advantage of the hiccups that Soriano will make. Not Soriano, but Patolo will make out there. So I think he frustrates him, gets him overcommit on a lot of shots. Then eventually they're able to level change when he's overcommitting on some punches, on some shots. Like, yes, overcommitting with his striking, probably maybe coming over his feet a little bit too much, or maybe loading up a little bit too much, trying to come in on and enter into his striking and boxing range. And then I start to see Dusko Todorovic, like I said, level change, get him to the ground, like tag him up, force him to transition, or make him have to try to make something happen. It didn't take advantage of him in the transition, probably get a little front choke, neck choke, and then tap him out in that second round. So in this fight, I have Dusko Todorovic via second round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Alex Morono versus Mickey Gall. And how I see this one right here is definitely a tougher fight than it should be, just because of how inconsistent Alex Morono can be and how questionable his fight IQ can be at times. But on paper, he's the more well-rounded fighter, and based on what we've seen, he's beating better guys, been in with better guys, the better striker, can match him in grappling or even beat Mickey Gall in grappling. Matter of fact, I'll probably give Mickey Gall a slight grappling advantage, but full package-wise, I would definitely have Alex Morono all day in this one. But again, Alex Morono can be a very inconsistent fighter. Right now, he's riding a better momentum. And also, but one thing to compliment to Mickey Gall, he did show improvement in his striking in his last fight against Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams isn't such a great striker or nothing like that, and was cutting weight or whatever the case may be. But either way, showed improvements, a little bit of some improvements in the striking. But I'm gonna have to go with Alex Morono's one. Like I said, I feel like he's the more well-rounded fighter, definitely the better striker so far from what we've seen, and overall better fighter. Grappling wise, can be a bit of a lean, but when you factor in that in a tight matchup, that a guy has a clear edge in the area, and you don't necessarily have a clear edge, and also a clear experience advantage. And there's no clear age advantage where it's like, oh, Mickey Gall's so young and so in his prime, and Alex Morono's so this and so that, like so old. I feel like Alex Morono's actually right in his prime, and Mickey Gall is right outside his prime, like he's not yet at his prime. So I feel like all things for the most part are in Alex Morono's side. I don't think he stops Mickey Gall, but I do think he beats him to a pretty clear decision. They landed better shots on the feet and is able to dictate more so when the fight goes to the ground or not, and the grappling exchanges. Like, so basically dictating when they do initiate grappling or participate in grappling based off how he, with his footwork and his striking. So in this fight, I have Alex Morono via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis. And how I see this one right here between Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis is, I'm going to go with Brendan Allen. Like I said in the last fight, even though I got it wrong, I still saw what I saw in Chris Curtis. A guy, that's looking for those pretty shots, looking for those perfect shots, and not really letting his hands go. Like, it's like he was Floyd Mayweather out there and just shoulder rolling shots and just avoiding shots and just not getting touched by these shots from field halls. He was eating a lot of them. Not saying eating the flushes, but he was getting scored on with those shots. They were landing flush. I think he got, at least felt, some shots landing clean, he felt them. It's not like he was ever like rocked or dead to rice out there, but he definitely was feeling some of those shots from field halls. But he's eventually able to find that perfect counter, that perfect opening, and it landed. It had perfect results. But that's not a recipe for success at no level of the game, especially not the highest level. I feel like Brendan Allen in his last fight, he showed improvement in his striking heavily against Punahele Serrano. Was very, mixed up from like legs all the way to head. Like, he didn't just attack the body. He didn't just look to snatch somebody's body. He didn't just look to head hunt. He didn't just look to tap legs and stuff. Man, like, mixing leg kicks well, mixing in body shots well, mixing shots up top, and just showed a much more improved striking game. I don't know how about his durability and some other factors. I feel like Chris Curtis can definitely test it, but I like Brendan Allen out here to, be active, let his hands go, and also to be the better wrestler grappler out there. I don't know if he's going to have the greatest success against Chris Curtis, who has pretty solid wrestling defense, but I think it's really just going to ultimately come down to the fact that Brendan Allen will be more active. Whether he's getting shots or these takedowns or not, that will be a forward pressure, created from the fact that he's going forward, looking for these takedowns, that he's trying to create clinches and working for these clinches. And on the feet, just letting his hands go more, whereas Chris Curtis, like I said, looking for that one perfect shot. And I feel like also Brendan Allen will have a pretty good height and reach advantage. I think Chris Curtis on like 5'10" or 5'11". Not the tallest guy, not the longest guy. And I think Brendan Allen like 6'2", 6'3", or something like that. So pretty good height and reach over Chris Curtis, and he'll be more active and he'll be more willing to engage, whereas, like I said, Chris Curtis is always looking for that one shot, like those pretty shots. He's not a guy that's going to be necessarily a high volume striker. And I feel like that's going to, like, eventually over time going to, not pound off from the best. Like, even if he get past Bernal, or maybe even get past two more fighters, it's not a recipe that's going to allow you to, maintain a top position, like, in the sport, or definitely not get you no belt or anything that's style typically in most cases. Some people are rarity, like Tyron Woodley was able to do that and defend it for somewhat whiles, but all the way, what I'm saying, I think Chris Curtis is a much better boxer than Tyron Woodley, but all I'm saying, just looking for those pretty shots out there. Unless you Floyd Mayweather and you just rolling those shots over your shoulder, or you just some solid defensive striker and they're not really tagging you and you tagging them more, it ain't the best thing, because basically don't like Chris Curtis' work rate. Brendan Allen's going to be more active, outwork him, and get a decision victory. So in this fight, I got Brendan Allen via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the lightweight division, Clay Guida versus Leonardo Santos. And I see this fight right here between Guida versus Santos I just feel like Santos has so many advantages in this one. Clay Guida always got that cardio that's still legendary to this day, that experience, that wrestling and whatnot. But I feel like Leonardo Santos could just shut Clay Guida's wrestling game down, or if they go to the mat any type of way, I feel like Leonardo Santos would just tap out Clay Guida relatively quickly. Then on the feet, I feel like Clay Guida's striking is pretty limited. And I feel like Leonardo Santos will be able to pick him apart on the feet and on the ground. And I guess what's going to happen, I think he taps on the first round. I think he finds those opening on the feet, land those clean shots, gets Clay Guida's attention or gets him hurt, either or gets his attention. Clay Guida goes back to his roots and tries to wrestle. And when you get hurt, you go back to which your origins, goes back to wrestling, goes heavy on a shot. Leonardo Santos finds that neck, hops right on it, taps him out in that first round. So in this fight, I got Leonardo Santos via first round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Jimmy Crute versus Jamal Hill. And I see one right here between Crute versus Jamal Hill. I just flat out think that I think Jimmy Crute is a more well-rounded fighter. Jamal Hill, I feel like he has shown plenty of times that he's still very much a one-dimensional fighter. I feel like in the last fight, his ego got in the way a bit, and he tried to grapple with Paul Craig where he should have struck. He even said like in the lead up there, oh, I'm more than just a striker, I'm more than just a boxer. When I got my grappling is pretty good too. And then what happened? He got his arm broke. So I'm not saying he got zero grappling. He probably got some solid grappling for, definitely compared to the average man, like way, way, way compared to the average man, probably at the regional scene, but at the top level, like, the top organizations like UFC, Bellator, and whatnot, it's not the area where you want to necessarily test that necessarily. Especially now with a guy that's has such a huge experience advantage and skill advantage in that area. So didn't show great fight IQ. It was not a good look for him all together. Like, ego got in the way, poor fight IQ, poor decision making, and he engaged in the grappling with a guy who clearly had a huge grappling advantage over him. But even outside that, takedown defense has looked questionable. And like I said, it looks very much like, as far as at the UFC level, a very one-dimensional fighter. Both guys are young. Both guys are talented. I'm going to lean to the more well-rounded talent in Jimmy Crute. To be able to, even if he's not winning on the feet, or he can't win this fight just on the feet, he'll have that other avenue. Whereas Jamal Hill only has that one avenue, which is his striking. Can't see him go out there and wrestle to no decision. Can't see him go out there and taking somebody's back and being a backpack, or actually working on the ground and transitioning, controlling position and working for submissions or nothing like that. I don't see that. All I see for Jamal Hill's path to victory, maybe outpoint him on the feet, show improved takedown defense, and outbox him. Or maybe don't give him an opportunity to even go for a takedown and stop him early potentially. But all that being said, I just feel like the more future I'm seeing is Jimmy Crute has been more well-rounded out there, mixing in takedown, wearing on Jamal Hill over the course of the fight, maybe gaining respect a little bit on the feet, and then once he gains the respect and attention, is able to draw out reactions from Jamal Hill, then able to look for takedowns, and then when we start getting the takedowns, find reactions, land some shots, and like I said, put them in the mix. Have him think about one thing to give him the other. And eventually the fight was some takedowns, some top control, some ground and pound, started wear Jamal Hill out, tire him out, pepper him up. Then I think he taps him out in the third round. So in this fight, I got Jimmy Crute via third round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in our co-main event in the lightweight division, Rafael versus Brad Riddell. And how's this fight right here between Fiziev versus Riddell? I just think that Riddell is the more well-rounded fighter. People might say, oh, Fiziev is this, Fiziev is that, but we have not really seen his grappling, and definitely has not been nothing super impressive from what we've seen. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's definitely been more than enough he needed to get to where he is now, but I feel like Brad Riddell will without doubt be the more well-rounded fighter, and definitely will look to be the more well-rounded fighter. Like, he'll actually use his skills. I don't really see Fiziev going out looking to be, use too much offensive wrestling. And I feel like Riddell's wrestling is very underrated. A lot of people still underrated to this day. I think some people say, "Oh, Fiziev's a better wrestler." I don't know where you seen that from. What I've seen from Riddell, he's been in with some solid graps, some solid fighters overall, and I think every single fight he's been able to out-wrestle them. So, like, out-wrestle him. His chain wrestling is pretty beautiful. So that man's real solid, and I think he will look to test the grappling of Fiziev. Whether he's winning the striking or not, whether it's close or not, he's going to mix it up. He's not going to go out there and just look to strike it. He might have a striking background, might be a kickboxer by trade, or was a formerly kickboxer by trade, but the man fights a full way around the game. He don't just go out there just to look to strike. He don't go out there just looking to wrestle. He looks to use his full skill set, and he has used his full skill set every single fight. So it's not the case where he's going to come out there and fight with his dick and whatnot, and it's like, oh, I'm going to just go out there and try to show him a better striker. Or that's my only path to victory. I'm not going to go for a single takedown. Let's just have a kickboxing matchup in MMA gloves. It's not going to be him. And in a close fight where I feel like striking can be relatively close and you can lean either way, I'm leaning to the guy that has the other avenue, will definitely use that other avenue, and that guy is Brad Riddell. So I perceive Brad Riddell winning winning a close decision by mixing it up. Striking relatively close, can lean either way, and then the takedowns will be what makes it clear, and Riddell will get his hand raised via decision. So in this one, I have Brad Riddell via decision. Now to our main event, we have in the bantamweight division, Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. And how I see them right here is Rob Font's a very dangerous guy, but I feel like he overestimates his boxing and overestimates a lot of his skills, to be honest. I don't think he's as good as he believes himself to be, but it's always good to have confidence in yourself. But I feel like, Jose Aldo is a better boxer than him. What I worry about Jose Aldo is age. even though he's not all that old, to be honest, compared to some of the other guys. But he has been fighting since he's been like 2 years old. So clearly his age is older than it states, but because of the mileage. But either way, aging too much. I worry about the boxing because a lot of his losses have been to boxers like Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, Piotr Jan, and such. So a bit of a question. The fact that Rafael's riding the best streak of his career, but Rafael's still showing a lot of the same flaws as before, especially in the grappling. Like I seen, like still pretty much giving up takedowns, if not multiple takedowns a fight, and kind of a lot of times being one dimensional with his striking. Is kind of believing to be a boxer. It's not like his box technique is so diverse and like he's so clean and got so much different tools. It's just like technique is very basic, very textbook, which can get you very far in boxing and can get you very far in MMA or any striking sport, like being textbook. But it makes you predictable. Like the guys at the higher level see that predictability and they start to, make you pay for it. Like they may be unorthodox, might be maybe a little bit off textbook or a lot off textbook, but when you're textbook like that, it's not like I don't know what. I just feel like Ralph Fondas kind of can be a lot predictable in the feet. Like I said, I worry about Aldo's cardio and stuff and his ability to go 5 rounds. If this was a 3-round fight, I would be an easy Jose Aldo, but I'm still gonna lean Jose Aldo, but it's not gonna be an easy fight, I don't think, for Jose Aldo. But I think Jose Aldo will be able to score takedowns on Font. I think he'll be able to take advantage of Font being too much in love with the jab. And a lot of times Font does overextend with that jab and have his hand hanging out there. So I feel like Aldo come over the top. Probably even come over the top, then ended his combination off with like a leg kick, batter the legs of Font, take advantage of his jab, draw that jab out. Because Font definitely too much in love with the jab. He thinks his jab is so great, but I don't really think his jab is one of the top 10 jabs in all of MMA at this moment. Definitely not all time, but like he feels it is. But I feel like he's gonna learn the lesson that his boxing ain't where he thinks it is. But I feel like I was gonna take advantage of, like I said, his textbookness and his predictability. Land clean counters, chew up the leg, and start to make him a one leg fighter. And start to walk him down, pressure, tag him to the body, maybe score some takedowns, and just wear on him, and just never give him that space to box or never give him that space to be long and behind the jab. Crowd his space, take away his legs, crowd his space. Don't make it pretty. Mix it up. Be the more well-rounded fighter. And I really, if he wanted to outbox him, I think he could outbox him, to be honest. But I think Jose Aldo can go out there to be a well-rounded fighter. Like I said, take away the legs, start to walk him down, come over the top of his jab, and just break him down. I think he stops him in the 3rd round. So in this fight, I have Jose Aldo via 3rd round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Font versus Aldo. And as always, thanks for watching.